Okay, Southern Victoria Village Council meeting, Tuesday, June 6th, 7 PM, 2023. Okay, call meeting to order. Okay, record of attendance, disclosure of conflict of interest. If there's no conflict at this time, if something arises, you can point it out that time or declare it. Approval of May 8th minutes.
I move that.
You're doing them both together?
You can do May 8th and 23rd together if you want.
Everything's good for, okay.
Yep.
Okay, okay, so any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Delegations. Oh, okay, unfinished business, June 15 meeting with Horizon.
Yeah, I just got so Zoom meeting, I think.
What time is that one?
at 1 o'clock, I think.
1 o'clock, and then the other one's 3:30 for the, yeah.
And June 15th, Zooms, we need to confirm I'm assuming the council, whoever's gonna be on, or healthcare action committee, are the people we want to invite to that.
Mhm.
Plus, if we still want to invite all the doctors on top of that, so it'd be great if council decide the members that we want. I think somebody said Ryan step up so far, so if there's any other names council would like me to approach to be.
I think we should, if we're inviting Ryan, we should invite both pharmacists. if they're
Yeah, he was
interested.
going to talk to her,
Okay.
but she was going through a lot right now with her dad, so.
Okay, yeah,
Problems.
yeah, and any of the doctors who would like to, if
Yeah.
they Zoom, I think that's a good idea. And
Well, anybody else too, like,
Like in the past, we've
I don't
had
think,
some of the former administrators, like whether it be Marcia, Joy, or
Fantastic, yeah.
Karen Reagan. Have been on, we've had people from invited like Roxanne from Toby.
I think Roxanne should be.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that Joy, even your present
Yeah.
one should be part of it.
What about former council, since it's a Zoom meeting? I mean, there's still probably.
Yeah, there's
interested
people, yeah.
in what's going on.
What about former councilors who worked on that file a lot?
Or anybody that's interested in healthcare.
Yeah. So I think
Mary Ann.
we could ask her. And
Is it Jen Egan then?
Jen Egan,
Yeah, she's the
yeah. I think we should
administrator.
make it as inclusive as possible, so we get the right ideas and that, and we're all hearing the same thing, so then it gives us better strategy.
Now, what are the 3 previous administrators do we want? They've volunteered on different committees in the past, that's why I mentioned them.
Joy and Marcia and
Karen.
Karen.
Now I'm saying invite all 3 of them, or one of them, or it's like, I don't know what their commitment is right now, that they're retired.
Maybe put it out to.
I think Marcia keeps very busy still with it, and I think Joy does, but I'm not sure if Karen does as much now, but I would have no problem with all 3 of them if they were interested.
Yeah, they actually were the ones that were sitting at the table with me,
Yeah,
but I mean, I would think maybe even Cindy McCarthy, the nurse practitioner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What is, yeah, I would think.
Are we reaching out to Ross? Yes, council.
That Roxanne.
Roxanne, Bernard Sapp, that's been
Like that's Ross too.
She's
Yeah.
healthcare, he's. She, you know, like.
Yes.
What'd you say her name was? Somebody.
Roxanne, Cindy McCarthy.
the Horizon, I think.
And this is more than just for Canada.
No, it's just Perth Andover and
Okay.
and Horizon, right?
Yeah, this meeting is, what we
Yeah.
request for Horizon was, they've got this new strategic plan of how they're gonna work with communities. So we've reached out to them, and asked them to meet with us to tell them, look, we were forming an action healthcare committee in our community. We'd like to know how to best work with them to fit in their new strategic plan or whatever their model is.
Yeah,
And so the intent of this meeting is for them, for Horizon to tell us how their model works and how they look to work with communities, and then for us to say, that's amazing, wonderful, and we'll jump
Or,
in.
no, we don't like that.
yeah, I would say make sure that Dr. Bell, Dr. Allison, and Dr. Carter, because they're the 3 that reached out to us.
Yeah,
So I'll invite all
All of
of them. Because we're just during the workday, they may have
we may have problems doing that.
Okay. No, that's good. So we've got, well, probably 15 names there to invite, so
Guys, it'll be a one.
we should get there. And of course, all council will be invited to
Mhm.
sit in on it.
I plan on taking my lunch break. I want to be a part of it. I just want to do it too.
Yeah, I'm planning.
Yeah. That's good.
It'll be a gloomy day, won't it?
Hey, we can push that director just a bit to the, a little bit of wood there.
Oops.
Yeah, so include in your, this is the sort of the goal summary we had last time, and I've included in your kit. Hot off the press today, we still got some more tweaking to do to it, but that's a working draft of the strategic plan for the different goals and stuff. So it's kind of neat, it ended up being, I don't know how many pages there, 15 or 16 pages.
But we don't have this page here.
No, that's, and we're gonna add a summary page to that document. That'll be sort of a summary of this stuff of the goals and things. As we put a picture of council in the front and sort of an overview of the strategic plans, we'll do like an executive summary. So that's, again, that's just for, that's a working draft, so once people get a chance to go through it and stuff, then it's. Part of the comment, there's still some wordsmithing we wanna do to it and things, but.
So we can bring those back if we have wordsmithing that we think.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
If you
We can
have,
send them to you.
yeah,
and-
just send them as you get them, you don't need to wait till next,
Yeah.
council meeting, we're always open to comments on grammar, clerical, or content.
Or content, yeah.
I think these are ranked in particular order in our package. Or are they just itemized?
Just like each, we just put, the different initiatives. And like, I don't think that like, we didn't say one pillar had higher priority than the other, I don't think.
No, we haven't prioritized the pillars,
The pillars, yeah, we just, there was priorities in each pillar,
but we didn't prioritize the
The
pillars.
goals is what I'm saying, not the goals.
the goals. Yeah.
Are the goals prioritized?
I think we tried to, Sheldon, like when the stuff we get back from the scoring, that if one of them was higher, we put it higher.
Okay.
And there were some of them, if they were dependent on something else, and we put the first step first. Like we might have some where the third step was ranked number 1. So we ended up putting the background to that first.
And these are still open
Oh,
for
yeah.
discussion, like where.
And they will change as we go along, if we change.
Yeah. It's just like I said, a working draft.
Yeah, no, this,
Thank you for that. I know it takes quite a bit for all that.
yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But it's in a good format for us to look through now.
And we'll make sure that, I think that one of the press releases, make sure all the pictures are from Perth and they're not, stock art, clip art from. From other places, well, we'll double check that and make sure before we do it. Yeah, so I think the intent is that if for the, like to pass it at the regular meeting in July. So if they're meeting the end of the month too, the people have any comments or suggestions, let us know. And whatever the staff will, like I say, we want to go through it again, but any tweaks we make, we'll sort of highlight and share with everybody.
Yeah, like say we wanted to spend like half an hour or an hour on this and just touch base on it again and just make
Yeah.
sure our priorities, like, is that something we can do between now and July?
Yeah, we do,
Okay.
like I said, the committee meeting.
Committee meeting, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And that's why we approve it in July. Yeah. And that's the whole point of not trying to just bring stuff one night.
yeah,
Make it-
absolutely,
and put
yeah.
it off, so. Good governance, as they say. Yeah. So, and the wording on some of the goals in there might be a bit different than what we started it with here too.
So can you send me that, like
Yeah.
that?
Well, we'll send you the summary sheet for this one, which will be the same idea. Like we thought it'd be great in that there's no executive summary at the start of it. Like when you open up, you just see something for a filler. So we'll do something at the very start of it, that's sort of a summary of that, like they do that in every strategic plan. They'll do like a summary at the start.
And that's what that up there is representing right now. is-
Well, that was like right after the retreat. That's what we threw together is what
Okay.
those starting.
But it's not.
It's not the,
No,
and also.
Right, yeah, like I said, I think that all the goals, I think, are there, but the wording of them may tweak a little bit or something. And like there may be something, like say, for example, under, say, for example, police protection, if we thought of something that wasn't discussed, we might have added it into an action item type thing. So that's probably one of the best ones we've done so far. I think most detailed to it.
yeah, certainly more than the last one.
Yeah.
The last one was only 40 years.
Yeah, that's right, that's right, that's right.
You're not.
We didn't, yeah, we didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Very small window to strategize it.
Okay, 6B, vaccination policy review.
Okay, the question I have is. Our vaccination policy said you had to be vaccinated in order to work or whatever without mask and without testing. But most vaccination policies have been removed. And the other thing is, if everybody's not continuing with their upgrades on it, after a year. I may have 4 vaccines, but a year out from that, I have no more coverage, so why would we have a vaccination policy anymore?
And I believe that the other, like the hospitals and other
They don't have
jobs, they've all dropped the mask, they've all dropped this, so I mean, we shouldn't be forcing something that.
So I don't think we should be having a vaccination policy when it doesn't exist in any other situation.
And that's sort of what I think what council, you talked about in
That's how we
April or
get going with
something.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess we probably should have a motion to rescind our.
I move.
Talk
Well,
with
there-
Sandra first.
Yeah,
It's all
or I
over.
second, whatever. however you do it.
Yeah.
See ya.
Any discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Fix something, my little cheat sheet. Okay. All right, 7 correspondence, maybe Bill 45.
Yeah. And Sheldon, you probably read this the most of anybody in our council, the most council, so.
I've read it many times.
I think a lot of the comments is captured in the correspondence that would be applicable to our situation, so. Like I said earlier, over coffee, it's already in past second reading, it's in committee, so. Whether or not they'll actually read this correspondence before it becomes an act or whatever. Is kind of concerning, but I think we still go through with sending these comments forward, at least that's my opinion.
I think
I
so.
agree.
And can our comments, are UMNB putting their comments out publicly?
Yeah. it
And
included-
we could, yeah, so we should.
Included
be
in the
doing
kit
some.
is a sample letter.
Yes, there was.
That if everyone's happy, council just wants to take motion that we send that letter. We'll get that off.
And then with that, you would send it to them and then publicly put that on our page, on our website. Okay.
Yeah, we'll put something in the newsletter about it. Yeah. It's my next motion.
Oh, sorry.
I moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carried. Okay, so now we are municipal department reports.
Yeah. That's my stats on the screen. They're probably easier seeing in the paper. I didn't have the fire report tonight, Philip. I don't know if I mentioned to him that we're meeting tonight instead of next week. I thought I had, but I didn't have the fire report. Yes, just the projects that we're working on, the rate design hearing start this week again. Again, just refresh council's memory on that too. The rate design hearing is around a cost of service study that's done by MB Power on how much the customer class is paying based on what they should be paying. There's a whole science behind it, and I've got, for people that are into that, I've got an Excel spreadsheet with like 15 tabs off it, if people want to look at it, see how they derive the different customer rates. But there's some customer classes that are paying as low as, say, 85% of what they should be. There's some customer classes paying 117%, say, of what they should be. So part of the hearings over the next couple of weeks are, well, how do we rectify?
How to remove the 85s too.
Yes, and then where it's all, every rate class has their own bias. Like, say, for example, the wholesale, the municipal utilities, our rate now, I think they projected to be at like 97.5%. So of course, we don't want to see our rate go up. We want to see other people's go up. And the large industrials that get the best rate now, they feel that they shouldn't pay anymore. So there'd be a lot of arguing from each stakeholder of why everybody else's rate should go up but theirs. And of course, the thing for the municipal utility, it impacts the municipal utilities in two ways. One, the rate that we pay for power, but then also how it impacts our customer classes. Like, say, for example, if the new rate structure is the residential customers' rates go up 10% and general service customers go down 10%. How does that impact the utilities, each utility directly? So that's one thing we're trying to source out during this process of how it impacts not only our cost, but cost for our customers too. So it's kind of an interesting hearing. They've talked about doing this. I haven't done one. I don't know if it's been 14 or 15 years. Like, say, for example, there's some special rates now that certain types of customers get. Like, say, for example, churches get a certain rate now and certain groups, where I think in this proposal is to change some of those rates. So it's the devil's in the details of this stuff, but I don't know if that's an appropriate comment, Todd, or not. The devil's in the details, but now, so that, and of course, trying to get the roofing tenders. It was Thomas Gamlin's going to be doing the roofing at the library and the fire hall. We reached out again to the federal government about our flood mitigation funding, and as we were told that it is entering the final stages of the review. Again, I don't know what that means, but we're entering the final stages of it. We've been having a lot of discussion around about the next fire truck and different options and the cost. Philip and I were down last week and met with Metal Fab and one of the truck companies. And at time is sort of an issue for us, and of course, cost. Philip's price, I think I mentioned in council when we were doing our planning session, that the truck that they were looking at was like 1.3 million, and we just bought it same truck 8 years ago, and it was 675 or something like that. And this truck is sort of a backup truck for us, or will be backup truck for 12 years. So Philip we sort of kicked around different options, and one option that we looked at last week is, what if we buy a brand new chassis and take the old box that we have and get that repaired and updated and reuse the equipment on that? We think the turnaround time, like, we're short of truck now, so the turnaround time's maybe quicker in that option. So Metal Fab's coming up to sort of take a look at the existing box. Like, the equipment that's on it, Philip's quite comfortable with it lasting, so we could be into an option that's $400,000 versus 900,000 or 1.3. So we're sort of kicking the tires on that option, and once we get more information, we'll share that. But we've sort of been around, and there's other municipalities that are facing the same issues that we are when it comes to replacing vehicles. Like, there's one fire department downriver that's looking for a used chassis to put on an old box, and but a chassis to buy a chassis for a fire truck, they're 160,000 or something like that. So to me, you might as well just get a new one with warranty and start
in
on
that scenario.
Yeah. And problem with used trucks, if you don't buy a used truck from a fire department trucks could be 20 years old and have 20,000 kilometers on them. If you buy a 10-year-old working truck, it'll have a significant amount of miles on it. So sort of
Yeah.
So we're sort of working on that to see what we can do. As Council mentioned, the dangerous unsightly premise enforcement. We've got some other notices out now. Howard, and I'll send it to council too, the new forms and stuff, and we'll talk about it, with review later on for the unsightly promise, the bylaw. We had a meeting scheduled, there's something we'd be able to report on it tonight. We had a snowplow operators course, scheduled with NBCC today, meeting on it, with the program we're gonna do in the fall. And the gentleman had to reschedule this morning, so I think it gets scheduled for next week or later this week, so.
So that will be open up to other municipalities and to the DTI if they have people who need it. Okay, good.
And is it open to the public? Like anybody can take this, or are there precursors or?
So I think, well, I can talk about it, but my sort of understanding was that anybody that wanted to go,
So you guys are basically doing it for your, like, or we're doing it basically for the staff? Or is
well,
it?
for a couple of reasons. One is a way to train people in the area. It's an economic development thing too. Like we'd like to host training events here just because it brings people to the
Yeah.
community and we see developing with NBCC on this, and maybe we can become the spot that for this part of the province that we host this every year type thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's sort of a couple of reasons, and it gets used for the buildings too that we have for.
And then if we have more people who take that, who are living in the community and we had some illness on our staff and things, and we needed to get people, we could find people
Maybe
living
casual
here,
for-
catch somebody in casual or whatever. to-
Well, yeah, especially people who maybe work.
Yep.
Seasonal,
Seasonal, yeah.
you know, like, I guess I'd be selfish in thinking about my son, you know, he'll probably be laid off for the winter, maybe this would be a golden opportunity for him to pick up another skill.
Yes.
Yeah, and if he can get trained, then he.
And we usually hire some for their staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I guess my thought was there, like, started, just open it up to anybody.
Yeah, that's great.
And, other than that, the job fair was a success that we had, I think we had 60 or 70 people, attended, I believe. And we had nine employers.
Yeah.
I think, something like that, so that was good, so. Other than that, just all the typical stuff in the policy and bylaw development, all the normal summer prep to get ready for all of our summer activities and events and lawn mowing and all that other great stuff we do.
Question.
Yeah.
The new building.
Yeah.
So can we have some information, like we talked about different spots, but we really haven't done nothing or looked forward. Like, I mean, I know we're waiting on the government's approval, but we should be.
Yeah.
Really kind of tying down a spot,
Yeah. Would you like
not
for
wait till the last moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, if you want for the committee meeting, at the end of the month, I can bring that documentation back just to refresh everybody's mind on here are the options we looked at.
Yeah.
Might be in some of your minutes too, from when we had it.
Yeah.
Not today, but
Well,
back when we discussed it, because we had options and stuff.
yes, we had to report, but I mean, I think we should be thinking ahead of just what we got for options, we should kind of be focusing on one. Right,
Trying to narrow it.
narrowing it down.
Yeah.
And again, with that site location too, like if I remember right, there's pros and cons to all of a sudden.
All of them.
Yeah.
Like,
There
there's no like one, oh geez, this is
Yeah.
the obvious one.
I think so, that's why we didn't narrow it down.
Yeah.
Well, when we made the application, it was to a site that we own, but that doesn't mean that's where we have to build it.
They're all equally good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
equally bad.
Okay,
And then one thing I didn't have on here that I wanted to mention too was and I forgot to, the courthouse, they mentioned, I did reach, or not courthouse, the jail, and there's a report in the media that there's been several municipalities like us, so have reached out for that, so, I haven't heard anything back from the province on what their strategy is. I don't know if anybody heard anything in the media or anything on it, yeah, so.
It sounded like somewhere outside further from Fredericton.
Woodstock put in a proposal, and it seems to make sense, because they have a courthouse there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's worth.
I did hear on
Worth
CBC that
checking.
it was rejected by just a 3-sentence. Did you hear that? That Fredericton put out a 3-sentence rejection letter.
No,
saying
thank
that-
you.
Yeah, it was, I was like, can you see if you read that, just 3 sentences? I
Not in my neighborhood.
was like,
And that was put in by the province, right?
Yeah.
Not the city, I think.
was it?
I
Okay.
think, yeah,
Well, they said Fredericton.
yeah. Yeah, okay, so that's good. It's not part of it.
Oh. Council reports. So I'm gonna, a little bit about. With Caitlin. A meeting down there, A lot was about in 2024, there's gonna be eclipse, solar eclipse. And they're gonna be promoting a lot of different things on that. And then they talk about public safety and how much canvas other jobs. And upcoming regional strategy sessions that are gonna be taking place in May. Well, if it was taken in May, we're gonna be going over. So that was always done there. And Sarah and I had a talk, we're gonna have to do a little report for you guys for what we went through in Toronto, but we just thought we would wait until the next
Cause,
meeting.
yeah, this one's kind of busy, so
Yeah, if that's okay.
I will say, Sheldon, I can't fill your size 11 boots.
That's okay, 13, sorry.
Well, they, oh, it was a mistake. I was there and I was looking, I was signed up, I went on the excursion night, we were booked for, it, and I was like, "Gee, what are they even talking about? We get to this water, or the cooling system place, and I was like. So I clocked Graham in the size 10, then, so it's fine, that was the smallest they had.
Anybody else?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, the rec commission had a meeting, May 16th. And there's just a few, there are a lot of things going on, but it was just reminding us of some things coming up. The bike rodeo is this Saturday, June 17th. The Tough Muck Challenge is July 22nd, and there's already 40-some people registered, and they're from outside of the village, so they're, and then the dam run on October the 7th, which is a Saturday of the Thanksgiving weekend. This year is the sanctioned run, and so it's like a lot of the runners in the province will want to be running it. So we're going to need more volunteers at the finish line, and especially for the Tough Muck as well. The bike rodeo they were looking for, but I think they found quite a few students that will do that. But the 22nd of July for the Tough Muck, and the October 7th for that the dam run, because it is a big thing, and they will have officials coming in to just watch that we're doing it properly too because of that. So summer programs they were reviewing those. They had the evaluations from the Women's Day, which were and the spring's senior social and winter freeze, and that it shared those parts. Participation surveys with youth that they used. The facility misconduct policy of draft has been prepared, and in that meeting, one of the things I asked for is to make sure that if there's an event happening in there, and I don't care if it's hockey or whatever it is, that if the officials, if there's a situation like has happened before in the arena or in the parking lot, that the village council must be made aware of it. And that we wanted, for example, if it's at a Thunder hockey game and somebody from a team interacts with somebody, it could be in the stands, could be whatever, we want to be notified, and we want the governing body of that organization to be notified of the event, so that we would be notified, so that NBIAA wouldn't just know about something, the village council would know. So I've asked for that. So they have a draft policy and they're working on that. So that was another part of it. And they talked about the kids' bass tournament, hoping to get it. We do it every year, but hoping to get it back with some of the bass fishermen taking part in it, because it was much more exciting for the kids when they were doing it. The next meeting will be June 21st.
Okay, I'll just report that I sit on the board as a director for UMNB, and we had a 3-hour meeting on May 13th. A lot of interesting things have been discussed at this meeting, a lot of different things that we might not deal with here in our municipality about a Airbnb registry, whether or not that's something that people are interested in, and of course, housing, whether it is or isn't a responsibility of the municipalities, rent caps with the provincial government. And they talked even about having two different things. You know how we went in the fall, they talked about doing a biannual one because they felt there was lots of, it was a great place to share information. They talked about the RSCs being involved with developers for housing, and they also talked about the money that was, some municipalities are getting for transition to the new municipalities, and some are getting quite a bit of money, and some aren't getting any at all. And what they found was that if they itemized things and submitted it to the provincial government, they had a lot more success than if they wrote one letter with everything, you know, your branding, your this, your that. So little bits of information that come forward through these meetings that you bring back, and Dan attends a similar meeting with the, I assume his cohorts. So a lot of this stuff he hears too, but, so a lot of little things. The other, issue that they talked about was the money that was owed for the RCMP. There was an overdue account, or not an account, but money
Back
that back paid for the RCMP, and apparently for the people that belong to the group, which we do, that money is going to be paid by the province, so we won't have that bill. But the municipalities that do not belong to this group, they won't be compensated, and I don't really know who they are. Something that was interesting, and probably it's not our issue, but it is a provincial issue, and it's about the Chignecto Isthmus. And if you're not sure what that is, it's the piece of land that goes between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia that is dissolving. So there's an awareness of putting an effort into making sure that that doesn't disappear, because we need it for our, you know, travel between the provinces, and in that area, there's a lot of travel between provinces. So that's something actually was even talked about at FCM last year. And I don't know, one of the other things they talked about, that there was a housing and healthcare summit held, and no rural mayors were invited to this summit. So that was a concern for people on the board. They talked about the gas tax money, and if it would be returned to the municipalities and retro pay. There was probably a lot of other stuff, but it's too long to go into, but it's a lot of valuable information, and everybody's, you know, glad to share, and it's quite beneficial to us to have somebody on the board from your council. So
When I said, you know, on the UMNB, you're a part of that too, when we sit in on that, still working on government reform on that committee. And they said we should reapply for, and
Yeah,
we
that's
sent
on the
letters, so we need to reapply, because otherwise we might get money back if we have it.
And I also, I suggested that Sheila be added to the healthcare committee. I just put her name forward because they were looking for, and they did accept it within the meeting. So she sort of has that background, so she'll sit on that committee. She agreed, so.
Todd? Are you gonna tell us about all the things you went to this weekend?
Oh, man, that was so wonderful. The gathering of the Scots, and kudos to Deputy Mayor Shaw and stuff that you guys did over there. Really neat experience.
Great one, wasn't
You know, it was a lot of fun, and the Elks put on a wonderful breakfast that morning, and wish it would have been warmer.
Yeah.
That was kind of a detriment, you know, to the whole thing, but it didn't hold up the crowds. I don't know what the final totals were. I thought it did.
A lot.
Yeah, it was
Was it
really.
been your biggest year?
I'm not sure.
I know that if the Joustin comes back next year, that's gonna be raw, like unreal.
The videos on it are like
That
viral.
was so unreal.
Yeah.
It was real.
Yeah.
You know, you would expect that it would be kind of a whatever.
That'd be a good
No
laugh.
way. I talked to the guy afterward. His dad was the one that started that. I mean, he got hit and I don't know if he broke his hand, whatever, but it didn't matter. He was having so much fun. He said, I'll just take some Advil and go back at it again this afternoon. And it was just amazing, you know, so that our little community, no, I can't say it that way. That our vibrant community has really got a lot of things happening, and that was a really neat thing to be a part of, so.
And it was the 20th.
Yeah.
The 20th year.
Yeah, 20th year,
Yeah.
and each year I just think you know, it's different every year. I like the idea that, you know, sometimes there's the birds of prey, sometimes there's, there's different things. But it's, so I think it's a real great opportunity and that, and a lot of people from outside of town were there, and some people have been there the first time. They were, I was talking to, and they were really impressed with.
Yeah.
And Friday afternoon,
And Friday afternoon, we got to attend the Indigenous Peoples Ceremony. Well, it was not the day, but it was we were recognized at the celebration that day at the Civic Center, and that was a really neat opportunity with the drummers and the children had a blast. We had more fun watching them. I didn't even do that, but I mean, it was amazing to watch that go. And we got pictures after with some of the elders, and it was just a really neat little experience.
They were great pictures.
Yeah, so, and on another thing, somebody had reached out to me from Carlingford. We had the history of Carlingford Facebook page. And people have been asking about the old gospel hall, the community hall up there. So we're gonna start looking into that. To having a community hall in that area, or see what we can do. They wanna approach the historical society and see if there's any monies that are available to try to refurbish or do something. They want to have a work fee day. They want to get together and mow and clean and fix it up. So I don't know who owns it, but I'm in the process. I have to find out. It used to be perhaps maybe some of the individuals with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, I don't think it was Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
No, it was a Reformed church, I think.
Oh,
And I can check and see if Marie ever still remembers, but she would
yeah.
no more than, yeah.
I was trying to think, who do
Yeah.
I know in the community that
Yeah.
would remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
okay, anything else? Okay, bylaws.
Okay, the next item on there is as we mentioned, I guess, at our council's committee meeting about the need to update our dangerous and unsightly premise bylaw. And I made a couple of changes, minor changes to the original draft. I included which says current part 13 section, or caption as appendices to the bylaw.
Yeah.
So we talked about, instead of including them already in the original text, that we keep the bylaw to one page thing and then attach it. So you can see attached to that, there's no appeal, but behind that is all the pages relating to the dangerous and unsightly premise. So, and this is, I guess, just an example for council, just for information to realize how much detail there is in filing these notices with the property owners. There is a bit of documentation and process, and I think it's great the council wanted to put it in just as an appendice, because there's talk now already wanting to amend some of this part 13 sections. Like one of the things get overlooked apparently from my attempts at the assessment meeting a week or so ago, is that right now, if Sheldon has an unsightly premise, I send him a notice. I go and do the work, and I'm billing Sheldon the money to fix it up. Sheldon, in the meantime, sells the land to Sheila. Sheila buys the land, and she inherits a bill for me to clean it up. Previously, I had to register that as a sort of a lien against the property. But in this new legislation, apparently that got omitted by mistake, so they're gonna look to change that. But
That's why we wanted it as an appendix instead of if it's part of the document, because then we got a smaller document and we don't have to change our bylaw. We just have to.
so the process for bylaws is that we have to post it for 30 days for feedback and just for the general draft of it. And then after that's done, then we do a first and second reading, and then a month later, another reading. So it basically takes 2 months from when you finish your final draft to get it out again, depending on when council's meeting schedule is and things. So this one will be put out, council's happy with it. We'll put this out on our social media and put a link on our website to this, and we'll look for updating the bylaw. And it would include the entire community to make it clear that this applies
Yeah.
to everybody. So if there's unsightly premise issues, and I guess I reached out to Sarah, but Todd, if there's any like in your ward that you have concerns about, you just let me know, and we'll send our polite letter to encourage them to clean up and be good neighbors. things
So
like
all we
that.
need tonight is a consensus to post that.
Yeah, if council's happy with that, it's basically the same draft that you looked at last time with
Yep.
those minor changes recommended, so.
Okay,
So council have that, we'll proceed and get it out.
Yeah.
And it'll
Agreed.
get approved probably for the final approval will be at the August meeting.
yeah, agreed.
10, motion, notice the motions.
And these are all the things we, I guess, went over the last couple of meetings, and all those documents are in your kit, Sarah. So if you want to just go through each one and get a motion for each one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people have any questions on them now before we get to that, to voting on them with the same questions. I just know we've been over them.
We've been over.
Well, I was just, my only question would be that it's up to individuals to notify us on such dates, special dates. We don't keep a calendar.
Right.
So if somebody gets
Right.
forgotten, then
Yeah.
it's kind of up to families
Yeah.
maybe,
Right.
or
Yep.
if it's your parents' 50th or
Yeah.
whatever, so that we.
Yeah, we're not keeping a birthday registry.
We can't, no.
We're not. And these go out onto our social media,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah,
So
Thanks.
encourage families to.
So I have a,
you wanna move?
on the wedding, yes,
Yeah,
wedding one
move
by
that.
one, right?
Yep, I'll move that one.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oops. Carried. Oops. I just got notes on the sword, Danny.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Okay, congratulations. To business policy.
Second.
We hope we get to use this
What's
a
the
lot.
first one? Jump in.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Oh, opposed? Carried.
We all said aye. So.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, cancel travel expense policy. Can I have a mover, a seconder? Any discussions?
I was just wondering, at some point, maybe, I don't know if it necessarily in this because it's expense, but basically, like what Dan mentioned about the FCM. That down the road, if we have it in our province or if we had it in our within.
Right.
That we may consider sending more than our complement with the cost. Because I know when we were there last year, Mary Ann and I both said everybody would love this.
Yeah.
That's all, that was the.
That's, and
Yeah.
I mean, if you go, that's what you feel. So maybe, I don't know if it's necessary, I know it was part of that in here. But if that's something
Yeah, like I would think that,
caveat to
yeah,
that.
like knowing that if that's council's interest, like we would pay attention to that now and sort of say, okay, look, it's in PEI this year.
Yeah,
Or the,
Halifax or.
or wherever. it
Because
is.
you do
Yeah.
learn,
Yeah.
and I had more fun around the trade show, and which actually I got to talk to a lady, and I called Justine up, and she got to apply for 2 extra summer
Okay.
or occasion jobs, whatever. She hasn't heard back the approval yet, but Justine said she wouldn't have known it was coming up.
Yeah.
So I mean,
all
you
that.
never know,
Yeah.
right?
And the networking.
Yeah, the networking alone is.
I told the girls, I saw her and I said, it's like coming back from a church revival.
It really is.
It is.
Fired up.
I feel conferences, and I know what that's like, and that's what it's like.
You feel so empowered.
You
Well,
do.
You really do.
Yeah.
So they hadn't been over to yours, have they?
There.
The only thing that this doesn't,
No, that's fine.
The only thing that this doesn't mention is that, because it says council travel, but I think in the past when we were discussing this, it's
staff.
actually for staff as well.
Yeah, the rates
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
like the rates are the
For
same
everybody.
rates, like we don't do one rate for council, one for. And if we have volunteers travel for the community too, they do qualify. for those rates.
Yeah.
Is that worth adding to it or not really?
I think,
It's just ongoing.
so that's an understanding that we have then.
Yeah, like whatever the rate is by council, applies to everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we did our discussion. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Carried.
Do we have any community service? Or anybody that's doing, like, I've heard of it in other communities, like a welcome wagon. You know, when a new family moves into town, is there a,
Last year. Did a half day session here, wasn't it? For
When it's a library, yeah.
It's actually right on the front of our webpage too. There's for new members, there's some information there.
okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Years ago, but you're right, we used to have like a kit
Yeah.
where we had
that's what I
coupons
was
from
saying,
some of the
yeah.
local businesses and we took
Yeah.
it to them, somebody,
Nice.
yeah.
I know different realtors that are friends of ours and they'll approach certain organizations and give them the option. Would you like to do a fruit basket or, you know, something like that for a new individual that buys a home in your community? And I'll supply you with your name, address, whatever, and then they just go welcome me and, you know. Because it's, when you pick up your life and move, unless you're coming back home, but you're moving to a new place, you don't know anybody, and first person contact is a big thing. Really.
The village had at the library, the welcome to newcomers and.
Okay.
And they had different groups there that could share what, the book club was, somebody from the book club was there, someone from. One of from the daycares were there, some, so that they would know what was available within the community.
Okay,
It was organized by.
And one thing that we talked about last year too was maybe trying to do some type of outreach to the newcomers.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of like some type of survey to say, you know, look, welcome here. How are you finding it so far? Is there anything you need? Why did you pick here?
Mhm.
What can we do to improve you coming here and stuff? But yeah.
like when we're on our travels, we always find. And I'm always watching every community, city, wherever it is we're at. What are they, what's their focus? Where are they at? What's their?
Mhm.
And we try to find a local walking park, you know, or a place to go we can do our walks in. Some have it and you, when you're walking, you can look and see what their focus is. Is it infrastructure? Is it, some it's not, some is another thing, you know, or whatever. So it's just neat. You kind of pick up ideas like that as we go, so.
I think there's some important things that newcomers need to know, especially you take the summertime for the pool, for example. Because last year I was talking to someone in July, mid-July, and they said, we haven't been down to the pool because, you know, we're kind of tight on the budget and everything. And I said, what are you talking about? Public swim is free. And they said, what? And they went the next day and they went
Yeah.
twice a day for the rest of the summer because they found out it was free. And I said, public skate is as well. So I think it's important that, you know, newcomers, I think some of those things could go out to people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the increase in activities and knowledge around our area, like there's a lot of. We have a lot of things to offer
Yeah.
to people, and it's really neat to have those available.
Okay. 11, new business.
So, so,
I'll get the papers.
Oh, there it is. I don't know.
Development strategy.
The development strategy.
Yes. Sorry about that.
and we still want to pretty that up some, but I did take off the Perth Andover label and the. Put some very name to it, so we're pretty back up this morning. And that's the same policy that we've had in council reviewed on a couple of occasions.
Do we have a sheet right here? Sorry about that.
But there's a matching one,
For the provincial housing one for
provincial housing, yeah, for housing one is
Housing,
matching.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's nice, the provincial housing one, I talked to a developer, I guess downriver that's doing 54 units and they'd applied for that. And basically, they do your assessment at 1/3 the first year, 2/3 the second, so.
So they could technically get the incentive from us for income tax or further tax on the property tax and get the incentive from the province. So it would really make a difference for somebody building, an apartment building.
Have a mover?
Yeah.
Can I have a seconder? Any discussion?
It's just not in the format of a motion.
No, that's what I was looking for.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I should have had the. motion for
Our
that.
paper.
So the motion would be to adopt that.
Yeah, I'll do the motion to adopt it.
Yes. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Electrical rebate programs.
I move to accept that.
From that. Sure. Any discussion?
My only hope is that people use it and I think
Yeah.
they're exciting.
All in favor?
Aye.
And just on that too, the EV chargers are picking up use, the ones that the municipality has. Yeah, seems to be some more traffic to them, and somebody charging it here this week.
I saw a different Tesla going through town here today, tonight too.
And we've got to parent from one where I think our EV ownership has gone up by 50%. We've gone from 2 to 3.
There were two plugged in at the school when I was up there one day.
Oh, what's it?
Yeah.
Those are great numbers.
50% increase, yeah,
Yeah.
we're trying to, like, some people, which we hope they would, the ones at the Civic Center, people traveling for sports.
Yeah, they
Their
do.
families are while they're here, they're plugging in while they're here.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the majority of the chargers like ours in the province are free to use, the majority of them. Some places charge $1.50 an hour to use them. I believe that's what St. John does, and I think the last year St. John's, I forget the amount of revenue, but it wasn't like a huge number by any means, but and now, so it's interesting, it's starting to pick up, and one of the sessions I was at the energy efficiency conference, the total EV sales in New Brunswick last year were 1,200, in Canada, 90,000 in Canada last year, and they're projecting, I forget the numbers, say 140,000 this year, 200 and some next year, but they expect by the year 2030 to have 2 million vehicle sales a year by 2030 in Canada, electric. Yeah, so,
Electric or hybrid.
yeah, and I didn't realize too that there's a rebate on used EVs. You can get a $2,500 rebate if you buy used EV. Qualifies, which I was somewhere, so. All kinds of neat green things out there.
Okay, so 11A. Or ELG funding?
Yeah, this thing that Tammy sort of talked on, there was, I don't know if you remember last term there, Mayor Bell sort of had a Twitter discussion with the minister about expenses that municipalities weren't being paid for, and he said, oh, look, just send us a letter. And it's simple as that. So we sent him a letter with like 5 things on it, and we got a response back a month later that said, no to all of them. And then we heard some different things from other communities that they were sending letters and getting
And they got it.
approval. And some communities were getting studies for this, and like say, for example, with us, we have staff spend a lot of time working on the budget, where communities north of us, the province paid to hire an accounting firm to do their budget for them. But yet they wouldn't pay overtime for Jamie for the work that she did on ours type thing. So there's some inconsistency. So this money that they've sort of set aside, I don't know if people noticed about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, there's a lot of opposition, sort of saying, well, how's this money being given out? Things like that. But people noticed that last week there was a release from ELG that they're now developing criteria to apply for this funding. To make it transparent for what communities can apply for. And one of the options that they mentioned is branding and signage. So if we want to look at updating our signage in the new community, we'll do that. So just soon as I get that the funding program, we haven't had much luck yet. I know that we're I don't know if we've done it yet or not, but we've sent them the cost for our strategic planning session for the new community, just to see if that will be, see if that qualifies.
Did you resend the ones that we sent before with, under this new?
Well, I was waiting to see what
Okay,
may qualify or
yeah, okay.
not.
So
So,
you talk about signage that people ask all the time, you know, we're gonna change all the names and.
Yeah.
I mean, technically Google, you're still going to a Rooster, you're still going, but we're talking probably what's out on the highway, right? Welcome to the Southern.
well, I guess a couple of things, like some of the new municipalities are taking the slant that, well, one community now, let's change the signs and update it to whatever the new entity name is. Other communities are very sensitive of protecting the identity of each of the geographic areas in their community, so they don't want to sign things different. They want this area, Carlingford, to still be Carlingford, and where they don't want community signage type thing. And then some communities are trying to do a mix, or I think what you're saying, where they do sort of like the highway things one way, but they may be even adding some community signs that weren't there. Like say, for example, like, not say, you're now entering Carlingford or Tobic Narrows, where you do like a sign for that area. So there's different models for it. I guess that's what council will have to decide which path we want to
In
go.
Nova Scotia, in the HRM, Halifax Regional Municipality, if you've been to Muscatawbet Harbor, it's Muscatawbet Harbor, part of Halifax Regional Community. The sign has both on their signs. So entering Carlingford, part of Southern Victoria Regional, you know, Southern Village of Southern Victoria. Entering, you know, Ristick's Village of, and they have that part added on, so.
It's interesting, those communities too, they get into arguments or discussions around font size. The Carlingford is this big, but they don't want
Yeah.
the Southern Victoria to be that big. It's-
Anyway, it's just something we should consider when we're doing it, because some people are very. Want to, you know, keep their identity, it's gonna be that way on their mailing address and things, but. We could consider that idea.
Would those signs like that be under the provincial, like DTI, some of that, if they're, you know, you think there would be some consistency, like what she said, Halifax, that's a great idea, because
Yeah.
you're,
What
you know,
What about the water towers? Like, does the village of Aroostook come off and does Southern Victoria go on and?
Well, that'd be kind of, so like, for example, or since they're owned by the, like, say, for example, the Aroostook water utility is still the Aroostook water utility.
Yeah.
So would you want to keep the Aroostook water on that?
and you wonder sometimes if it,
Or do you want that
if
other
you
one
went
underneath?
into say. Maybe the community of another name, because it gets confusing when you still call it a village, because it is, we are the village.
Yeah,
But if it still has its name, Aroostook, that may be another.
I just assumed the green signs were gonna be up. Let's say Aroostook and Carlingford and Tobic Narrows and Burke and then, you
Well,
know.
they're not now. We're still-
Yeah, like I just assumed it was gonna be that. I mean, we have our old village signs that are still there. Well, kinda. We thought one went missing, but we found it. The one at the lower end of Aroostook on Dave Prince's yard, I guess I don't know if it got blown down or it was just kind of ill repair. Everybody was messaging me saying, they took our signs. I was like, calm down. Actually, it was.
Dan Dion did
I
that.
thought, well, who did we say did it?
It's all Danny fault.
Yeah,
I said it probably went into somebody's basement.
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
or, you know, like it's, but you
Hanging
know,
up at the camp.
It's a hang up at the camp, not my camp, but.
you would think though that the ELG would come out with something that was standardized,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
not, I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's coming 3
And
years.
how
coming.
would you do
That's good.
this, and we're gonna do that, like,
Okay.
When Danny and I had our meeting with Mr. Fitzgerald on the screen here, he said, like, our new buildings is gonna be. Not for Andover,
Yes, Victoria.
town
yeah,
office and stuff like that, it's gonna be,
it's up to the community. to
it's gonna be
decide.
Southern
yeah, I
Victoria.
don't have a problem with buildings and our name being that, I'm just talking road signs, like,
Yeah.
people look for where they're going and what
Yeah.
they're, you know, like.
Like you're coming in and you're like, you're going into Perth Andover, you're going through Roostick, right?
Yeah, so-
That's.
Yeah, like how do you, you know, how do you Okay.
How do we get Southern
Pelvic
Victoria's
narrows,
name out
okay,
there?
this is, it's like Route 10, whatever.
Right.
You'd think they'd want some,
Yeah,
Some-
part of the thing with
A semblance.
government
Yeah.
reform too, that municipalities wanted to have the option to be, I guess, independent or whatever. The communities wanted to be able to chart their own path and they didn't want to have to conform to a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Well, which right one,
on one hand, the government's saying they'll give you this, and on the other hand, they're telling you in this policy that they're gonna change whatever
Yeah.
you say. What's the point?
Yeah.
Lucky you did it when you did. 'cause-
Yeah.
Well, I think it's worthwhile checking though for, what we could get for the branding and signage from that, because we do need to do some of that.
yeah, a lot of, the cost too, like
Yeah.
and how elaborate.
Yeah.
companies go, like for us to do over like our highway signs, like they're expensive, the highway signs, and for example, the decal on the water tower, I think was $4,000 or something like that, or. All that stuff, but so we'll crop the budget and find out what they're, if they're funding 100%, then maybe more aggressive.
Watch
If
it.
if it's 20%, then council may be a bit more,
Okay,
The water tower by the mill, you mean, that's a decal?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, every time I go drive by, I think, man, that was a good harness.
Well, I
Well,
didn't.
it
He's-
Yeah, it was
so one before was paid.
painted.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, and I figured he'd be the only guy that I could think of that could do something like that,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Okay,
but that one's a decal.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, apparently decals are in. The last one, I think I sent an email out last night, just, and we were fortunate, just more good luck than good management. I just happened to be online last night and lucky for us, UMB sent out, they released the rooms for the conference. After closing hours yesterday, so they released them, I think yesterday at 4:51, I sent the email out to all the union members, so I was able to book a block of rooms
Nice.
facing the river, so.
Nice.
So it was just, it was more good luck than good management, so those dates, so that's Friday to Sunday, that's the municipalities annual meeting, so save the dates.
Yeah.
Save the dates.
Happy birthday to me. This is 21st, so.
Oh,
I'm
birthday.
hopeful,
Never mind.
Never mind. No.
So motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
I'll move.
Okay, stop the recording. Find it.
We're gonna get a thunderstorm, by the way the river looks over there.
Well, it should be good for the forest fire danger.
Oh, you're right. I know for new these things, so there's that punch in my arms.